eyes wide open. We are heading deep into the Appalachian Mountains, one of the most active and haunted regions in the United States. The paranormal in Appalachia is far more real than most people realize. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
The Appalachian Mountains aren't scary. They're just older than bones, maybe older than Saturn's rings. Just mountains that were already ancient when dinosaurs were here. The living and the dead share the same ground. It's not uncommon to have a family graveyard in your backyard. Some people picnic with the dead, but that's totally normal. We have a lot of granny witch ancestry and granny magic, but who doesn't? We have omens and warnings passed down through our families for generations. Nothing scary about hearing whistling in the woods. There's hollers that get dark early in the day, with no cell service for miles. Hollers so dark at night that you can't see in front of your face. Darkness is truly dark here, but who needs to see what's out there in the dark anyway? There's nothing scary about lots of fog on a winding road, where your GPS just gives up. These mountains have seen wars, mining disasters, epidemics, feuds, floods, and poverty. There's a lot of abandoned houses that are quite eerie and whole abandoned towns. We've got an abnormal amount of places said to be haunted, but I mean, it's fine. It's probably just because of all the limestone caves underneath the mountains that are magnets to things like that. But yeah, nothing scary. You'll be fine.
Stop, because this video could depend on your life or someone you know's life. So please stay. This is a warning for you and everyone. And I don't care if I sound like a lunatic. I really don't care if this video gets taken down for me saying this. I'm going to speak the truth, and I pray to God that this gets to people who will not just look at me like a psychotic lady saying these things, but actually take me serious, because I'm being so dead serious. I love the Appalachian Mountains. They are beautiful, okay? Hear me. They are beautiful. But I have had a couple of what you would call cryptid encounters. And today I had by far the craziest one, okay? It was I guess what people would call a Dogman encounter. Now, if you want to hear the full encounter and full story of the whole encounter, I will do that. Please comment below. But something really important, I'm just going to give you a debrief, okay? We were on the Fiery Gizzard Trail in Monteagle, Tennessee. Okay, that is a part of the plateau of the Appalachians, alright? Me and my husband decided to go off trail a little bit. We found Amanita muscaria, if I'm saying that correctly, mushrooms, and we thought that was pretty cool, right? So we were foraging them. We went off trail a little bit, which is the first no-no. Learn from my mistakes. And we found, a big, open meadow, okay, where there was a bunch of light. And I immediately saw, this dark brown bipedal being just go to the right. I was standing in the middle and something zoomed to the right, okay? Now at first I'm okay, it could be a deer, I don't know. But we have code words since we've had things, so I basically, for my code word, what my code word was meaning was, hey, I think I just saw something, so be careful, okay? He then catches up to me, and we start hearing whistling and just weird noises and feeling weird, and so we literally saw this huge bipedal giant creature. It was black. We could see it. It was very close to us, making eye contact, okay? It was very intimidating, and it lined up with Dogman. Let's just put it that way, okay? So we turn around to leave, obviously, right? We hear whistling and all this stuff, but on our way back, this is where I want you guys to take heed in what I'm saying. This is so important. Because this is going to make sense and piece together a lot of missing 411 cases for you guys and stop a lot of them if you listen to me right now, right here, okay? Because it's not just about the sighting. It's about what happens after. It's about the techniques of these beings. Now, I am covered by the blood of Jesus Christ, so it could not touch me, but it was using infrasound, some sort of weaponized frequency, and it was like a whomping low hum that was just penetrating my ears and my husband's ears. This sound was literally causing my brain to be confused. Mind you, I am not on any substances, nothing like that. We had already hiked this trail before. We were trying to get back, and I kid you not, we were on the trail. I knew the trail, but everything in my instincts was telling me, nope, turn that way, go deeper into the forest, that's how you get home. But the Holy Spirit was telling me, no, that's wrong, but every fiber in my being was telling me that I was lost. I felt so freaking confused, and I promise you guys, all it would take for me, and by the way, this thing was tracking us, stalking us all the way, and doing all this stuff to us while we were trying to walk out, mind you. The feeling that this infrasound was causing us was this confusion, delirium. Like, I don't know where I am. I feel lost in the woods, even though I'm on the right track. Maybe I should go this way, off trail. That logically makes no sense, but I felt like I was being lured somewhere in isolation for something to happen, and same with my husband, or for us to get separated. And I promise you guys, it would have been so easy for it to happen if just for 1 second I was not letting the Holy Spirit take over, per se, because this feeling was so strong. And I said, hey, husband, you know what? I just don't think this is the right part of the trail. We need to go that way. We would have went that way. Like, we would have, and we would have got lost, and it would have been bad, because what happens after that is bad, and I can't talk about it on TikTok, okay? When we left, we saw not deer right by the road. And I believe this was the same type of entity, or, they're all demonic, okay? Let's just lay that on the table. Now, what concerns me is people are going to think I'm crazy. And it's not that I'm concerned about judgment on myself. What I'm concerned about is the fact that people do not realize how fallen and how crazy and how spiritual this world is and how dangerous it can be. If you are going out to the Appalachian Mountains or any forest or isolated areas with your family, by yourself, anywhere, and you see something like this, you experience something like this, please call somebody if you have any cell service. If you don't, turn around and pray. Pray. As soon as you start feeling confused, you start hearing any whomping noises, you hear any sounds, because they can be triggering. It's spiritual warfare. It's weapons, okay? Turn around and leave. Get out of there. Leave, okay? You understand me? Because the more you hear it, or cover your ears, please, because the more you hear it, the more you'll be thrown off. And so think about all of these missing 411 cases without a trace. Do you know how easy it would be for a child to be in that exact situation? Maybe their parents went off to the side to use the bathroom in the woods, and they were told to stand there, and a little 4 or 5-year-old starts hearing that noise or sees something, and they get lured into the forest. And these things are so fast, and they know every single mapping of these systems. So it's not like they can't take somebody somewhere off trail that nobody knows about, and then God knows what happens next. And there's also this thing about, different realities, different dimensions, that is biblical. Please understand this is so dangerous. Cover your children in the blood of Jesus Christ. Please take heed of my warning. And why I see so many cryptids, I want to say this lastly. The reason why I have so many cryptid encounters is not only because of my spiritual discernment, but also because of my belief. In the Bible talks about faith and belief so much, that your faith being strong causes, you to be closer to God. So that in general can be applied to almost anything. If you fully accept that something is real, it will manifest in front of you. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily means every demon is going to come in front of you, because in Jesus Christ's mighty name, you can rebuke that, and I do too. But if you know something's there, it is way easier for it to manifest in front of you. It cannot harm you if you are covered by the blood of Christ, but it can try to, and if you let it, it will. So listen to the Holy Spirit, and please take heed of my warning, especially if you're going to like Gatlinburg, Tennessee, if you're going to the Appalachians, if you're going anywhere isolated. Listen to what I'm saying, please, I beg of you. I know I sound like a crazy lady, but this is so important, okay? I will tell you guys the whole story of the whole encounter if you guys want to, but this was just the biggest thing that I felt like I needed to get across. In Jesus Christ's mighty name, I plead the blood of Jesus over all of you, and I pray that this video will get out to people that will hear my voice and understand what I'm saying, okay? I love you guys. Bye.
I'm back with another tale about something else crazy that's happened on our property. Believe me if you want or not, your choice. I moved here 15 years ago. I'm not an Appalachian native. I don't know if you can tell by my accent or not. But when I moved here, didn't have any friends or family, but I was heavily befriended by a neighbor who absolutely loved us. He was in his mid-70s at the time, was an incredible man. He had more knowledge about the woods, about the gardening, about hunting, anything you wanted to know about the backwoods, he knew it. The man quickly became a father figure to me. Well, one time he approached me, it was late summer, He said, hey, we need to go do some logging, get some firewood ready for the wintertime. I need it, you need it. It's going to be a cold winter. So I agreed. I said, yeah, tomorrow morning, let's get up, let's go out, let's knock out some trees, let's cut some logs down, let's get this thing going. So the very next morning I go out and I take my morning hike. I do that early, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. As I'm coming back down the mountain, along a trail, here comes my neighbor, which is very odd for him to be walking up to me. And he says, hey, let's go up to the shed building up here. I've got some stuff we need for today. After that, we'll get things going. I explained to him I had to go back home, get things ready, and I'd come back and meet him at the shed. He passed me and went up this road, started walking up the hillside. Now, up this hillside, it's about a 15, 20-minute walk to that little shed he's talking about. So I get back to the house, I start gathering my stuff, start getting ready to go out, get my pants on, everything I needed to go out and cut down some trees. I come back out the front door, and all of a sudden, on an ATV, here comes my neighbor. I'm thinking, man, did he run back to the house and get on his ATV? He lives in the opposite direction of this trail. So I asked him, I said, how did you get back up here so fast with the ATV? He didn't understand my question. I thought at first it was because of my dialect. He and I had very different language at first, especially when I first moved here. I couldn't understand him and he couldn't understand me. So I explained. I said, I just saw you going up the trail. You told me you'd be right back. He looks at me and says, Josh, are you nuts? I said, why? He goes, I didn't come up this way. So I asked him, I said, are you sure? I swore that you just walked past me in the trail and you told me that you were heading back up to the shed to get a few things before we start cutting. He said, I was on my ATV. I said, no, you were walking. He goes, I'm not walking up that hillside. Are you nuts? The wild part was he was being dead serious. Okay, so now, hearing this, what could that have been? I know I didn't hallucinate. I know what I saw. I even came back and told my wife, I said, I have to go get stuff ready. Let me climb up the shed. I'm probably going to drive up there and meet him there, and we'll just drive the stuff back. So who was that, or what was that? And why was it trying to lure me up to the old shed? I don't understand these things. Younger me thought I was just losing it. But now I'm starting to realize it's possible that might have been some type of a mimic, some form of doppelganger. And then you hear things about, certain Indian tribes around. We're in the Cherokee National Forest right here. And there was different beliefs in other Indian tribes, like the Seminoles, who had the Stakini, that believed that something could consume the profile, almost like a skinwalker, could take up the image of somebody else, including their voice, and then come back and get you later. I remember telling the old man exactly what happened. And he said, son, we don't talk about those things. You keep that to yourself. So see, that's where I start to get concerned, because the thing here in Appalachia is to keep everything quiet. We don't talk about this kind of stuff. It's not agreed upon. And they're always worried that if you say something about them, they're coming back for you. But I have no problem with that. I'm willing to take on the risk in order to find out what's really going on. And the truth is, we may never understand it. But I'll do my best to try and figure it out, because it's something I feel is necessary.
This is one of the scariest stories to come out of Tennessee. I tell a lot of scary stories in the dark, but this one truly makes my skin crawl. It actually makes me sick to my stomach to think about what could have possibly happened to this family in Waynesboro, Tennessee. This family was the Flight family. They were a small family of 4 that lived on a nice rural farm. Now, this farm, they had cows, chickens, pigs, your essential stuff. It's a husband, wife, a son, and a 1-year-old baby. Their neighbor had actually asked them to slaughter a pig for him. The neighbor had paid them to do so, and the day came for him to pick up his pig, and he never heard from his neighbors. So Mr. Lomax, the neighbor who had paid for the hog to be slaughtered, walked over to their farm. It was actually a pretty good walk for him, but he made it over there, and when he got there, he found the front door wide open. He peeked in, he yelled for the family. No answer, no response from the Flight family. He walks into the house and he's trying to announce himself, because you gotta think they're out in the country. You can get taken out for walking on somebody's property and trespassing. And when he peeks into the kitchen, he sees their 1-year-old baby sitting in the high chair smiling. Now, this is going to sound like something out of a horror movie, but it is 100% true. You can look this story up for yourself and read the deep dive details. This 1-year-old baby was creepily in this high chair, just smiling away. No noise, not being upset, not crying. Now, mind you, this is in the late afternoon. Mr. Lomax looks around and he yells again for the family. Sure, they must be nearby. They're not. The dinner table was completely made. All the plates were out. Everything was in order. It looked like they were about to sit down for a nice family dinner. All their belongings were there. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, except for the fact they weren't there, except for the 1-year-old baby. Mr. Lomax picked the baby up. He walked back to his house, and then he had to go actually into town, because this is before cell phones. He had to go into town and contact the police. The police came back, and despite their greatest efforts, to this day, the Flight family has never been found. Their belongings are still there. There's no sign of a struggle. The only odd thing was that front door that was left open. Now, many people accused Mr. Lomax for being the one that did this, because he's the one who found them. Was he trying to get this hog for free? Was he trying to take their farm over? Nothing ever came out of this. His whole family vouched for him that he'd been there with them the whole time. There's no way he could have done this. There's no sign of a struggle. So even if he did do something to them, there was zero sign of that. The canines never found any trace of them, and their vehicle was actually still in the driveway. Now, people have speculated, did they abandon this baby? Well, why didn't they take their belongings? You know, back then, people were poor, and they would often abandon their kids and even give their kids away. But their belongings were still there. Their farm was worth a lot. They had tons of cows, tons of chickens, tons of sheep. It was a nice working farm. To this day, no one ever knows what's happened to that family. The baby went on to be adopted. And that family's property, the creepy history didn't stop there. Years later, a pregnant girl was actually murdered by her in-laws at the foot of the property. There was a teenage boy who went missing and then had later found drowned in a pond on that property. This property has still to this day sat vacant. It has been bought by another family, but they have not built anything on it, and they don't seem to be using it. This story has sparked so much debate in Tennessee of what could have happened to them. Did they go live a life somewhere else? Were they somewhere buried on the property? If somebody did do something to them, why did they even want to do something to them? There's so many unanswered questions about this case, and it's what bothers us, I guess, the most when we hear about it. And it's that property is considered one of the most haunted properties in the state of Tennessee. Now, that story, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sometimes I like to do a lot of big emotional flair and a lot of suspenseful stuff, but here's the thing, we don't know enough facts for them to even get dramatic about it. The fact is, we have a million unanswered questions. And that baby is too young to remember anything. So even the baby, as it got older, couldn't tell us anything about the case.
I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Many of my patients lived off the grid. I would often not have cell phone service or GPS, so I would have to navigate to their homes using the compass in my car and a map. I was cleaning out a cabinet in my house, and I found a collection of teeth that I have, and it reminded me of this patient that I saw a really long time ago. So years ago, I'm going to a patient's house. It is a beautiful sunny afternoon in the summer. It's warm outside. I mean, I don't have GPS and I don't have cell service, but I'm driving through the most beautiful area of wood on a gravel road. And I come to this house that is completely brick. It is gorgeous. It's a big old house. Without going into too much detail because of HIPAA, I'm just going to say it was an elderly woman that was very, very tall. Very tall. Long hair, salt and pepper, such a vibe, really. Patient seems very nice. She walks me out of the entryway, out of the mudroom area into the great room. And there are taxidermy animals on every surface of this wall. There's an animal mounted to every inch of the wall of the room that I'm in. And I'm it's chill. A girl can have hobbies. Okay. Taxidermy, it's odd, right? But everyone has their thing. I just told you I have a tooth collection. You never know what people are into. So I'm it's chill. Then I start kind of chatting with the patient about this hobby they have. Did you do this yourself? She tells me yeah, this is how she learned. Her husband taught her. She's a widow now. Anywho, I get to looking at some of these taxidermy things a little bit closer. Do you know none of the taxidermy animals mounted have eyeballs? Not a single one has eyes. And I don't mean it has the fake eyes mounted into the mount. No, I mean there are gaping open eyeball cavities. I don't say anything, okay? We do the visit. We have a lovely time. We're having a chat. Then we kind of circle back around to talking about our hobby, right? And I said, I can't help but notice none of them have eyeballs. And she looked at me dead in the face, as chill as if she was telling me what the weather was outside, and said, of course I removed the eyeballs, so they can't see their way out. Excuse me? I beg your finest pardon.
She also explains to me that all of the taxidermy animals that had their mouths closed in the pose that they were in had all of their teeth removed. And I don't know if that's a typical thing to do with taxidermy. I wouldn't know. But she said that she kept them and she cataloged them and she had them in jars and she kept them in their kitchen for use for other things. So that's the story of how I think I visited a nice old woman who was an old school Appalachian folk witch in her tiny little cottage of canned eyeballs and animal teeth. It was honestly a lovely visit. I would not have taken anything she gave me to eat, I can tell you that. But you never really know what you're going to get when you go into people's homes.
I want to share a story about the scariest, freakiest moment of my life. About 20 years ago this happened. I don't really understand it. It still scares the hell out of me to this day. I was about 8 years old. Me, my mom, my brother, my stepdad moved in this old ranch house. It was all overgrown. House was beaten up. You could tell nobody had lived there for a while. I think my mom got it for an absolute steal. My stepdad used to tell us that whoever had lived in there previous had died in the house. And I always thought he was just messing with us. So they had done some construction in the basement to make a bedroom down there for me and my brother. It was huge. It was like half the size of the basement. No windows. Half of it was cinder blocks for the foundation. And then they just built walls, put them up, sheetrocked. It was big. And at nighttime, it'd be pitch black down there with no windows. We'd have a little like night light thing, lamp that we'd use just to have a little bit of light in there. So a lot of nights that thing would go out and I'd get up to turn it back on. And when I was going to turn that thing on, I'd see things moving in the dark. And it's kind of weird because what is darker than black? When you're in pitch black, how can something be darker? And when I turn the light on, it'd go away. I don't really know what it was. So I'm laying there one night and I wake up, go to roll over and I can't move. It was just like this tremendous weight on my arms and my legs. But my torso could wiggle. So I was just sitting there kind of wiggling, shaking my torso. And I was just pinned. And it lasted for about 30 seconds. And eventually it just let go. Everything at once. Just in my arms and my legs worked again. Happened twice. First time was, it said 30 seconds. And then the second time, probably about 10 seconds. And then same thing, just pinned, can't move. Everything loosens up. And then you can move again. And I didn't know what it was. And, I honestly thought that maybe I just slept wrong. And it was like some nerve stuff. And my arms and legs went to sleep at the same time. That's what I thought. So fast forward. I'm in my teens, 12, 13. My brother's got buddies. He's always spending the night at their house on the weekends. So that means I was kind of down in the basement by myself. And I remember just being petrified of going down there by myself. And part of that's probably dependency. You spend your whole life growing up with somebody in the room, they leave and it gets quiet. I think that was some of it, but there was just always something down there. And when he'd go to his buddy's house, I wouldn't even shut the lights off. I'd leave all the lights on and kind of just lay in bed and not be able to sleep, just stay awake. And the animals started to act weird. We had some dogs and stuff like that, and they'd start growling at random times, and they just kind of start to ramp up a little bit. We'll fast forward to, I'm about 15, 16 now. My mom and stepdad are divorced. She's dating a guy that lives down the road. And I'm by myself. Brother's in college. I'm just hanging out, right? Eating food, playing video games, going to bed late. I'm living the dream. And the TV just starts turning on by itself. And I'm banging on the top of it. I think it's broken or whatnot. It's just a piece of junk, And I used to have a little dog named Bill that would, spend the night with me, sleep in my bed with me, a little Jack Russell. And I'm laying there one night, arms hanging off the bed, and I feel somebody run their thumb down my forearm. And I wake up. And the TV's on again. And Bill is just going crazy. He's just, hair is up, and he's just growling, and nothing's there. And I remember calling for my mom, hey, Mom, you there? Nothing. And he really deteriorated after that, Bill. And he started over the house. He was just angry, acting funny. And we ended up just putting him outside, making him like an outdoor dog. So I'm laying there by myself now. Mom's with her boyfriend, brother's in college, just by myself, laying in bed. Moon was out that night, so it was lighting up the room a little bit. And I was just laying there with my eyes closed. And I'm just thinking about class, the next day, girls, whatever. A truck goes by, and it kind of startles me a little bit. My eyes open for a second, and then I went to shut them, and I saw something on the ceiling. And I didn't have any posters on the walls. I didn't have anything hanging from the ceiling. So I lean up out of bed and kind of just start to try and focus, get my depth perception and dialed in or something. I didn't know what it was. And then as I leaned up, it started to come into focus, and it was an old man standing above my bed, hunched over, big, tall guy, leaning down and just looking down at me. And when I gained focus, he was, inches away from my face. And he had his big pointy nose, big jaw on him, big chin, and he was just monster of a guy, big tall guy. And I remember looking into his eyes, and they were black. It was the darkest thing you could imagine, and just not a good person or feeling. He wasn't a pleasant guy, just kind of had that pure evil to him, bad intentions. And I leaned back into bed, pulled the blankets over top of me, and I just shook all night, just shook, sweat, just heart was racing. And I just all night until the sun came up. And I don't even know how I got out of bed and went to school the next day. I was so scared and just dehydrated, heart was racing. And, next day I was trying to convince myself it didn't happen. I tell myself I was dreaming or making it up, can't be real, because it's not supposed to be. I never believed in any of that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden it's just right there, literally in front of you. And, I've never been that scared in my life. I played sports before a big game. You get scared or nervous. I'm nowhere near that. I've run into animals out in the woods. Nothing. It doesn't touch it. There's never had a moment that is anywhere near as afraid as I was in that time. And I don't know, it was when the sun would go down and it would start to get dark, the fear would just increase for me. It's like his presence kind of became a little more dense. And it was a couple nights later, I'm laying in bed, got my whole body covered, and I got everything covered just like this, except my one eye, so I can look around, feet, everything. And laying there, it's dead quiet, just me in the house again by myself. Now, I didn't tell my mom because we weren't really getting along at that time, so I didn't want to share it. I didn't believe it, I didn't want to. Just denial. So I'm laying there, and, I'd lived down in that room in the basement for years, and I'd gone up and down those stairs thousands of times, and I was familiar with the sound, and I heard that first step creak, and it was correct. And then the second, and then it made its way up, and there's like a melody to it, you're familiar, and it was correct. And I heard that person, whatever it was, get to the top of those stairs and open that door. And that door squeaked open, and then that door closed. And I was just shaking. That what had happened a few nights prior, I was trying to write that off. I was struggling to do it, but I was trying. And it was right in front of me again, And to get to my room, you got to go through the kitchen, the dining room. There's a little hallway, and then I was there, and I heard the footsteps, just big, long footsteps through the kitchen, through the dining room, down the hall. And then they got to my door, and I threw the blanket over my head. I didn't want to see. And I just shook, and I could just feel whatever it was just there with me. And by that time, it probably walked right over my bed. It was probably standing right next to me. And I couldn't look. I don't want to look at it. We moved out of there probably a year later into my mom's boyfriend's house. And, you know, it kind of made sense because I don't believe my stepdad was lying. I believe that was the guy that had died in the house. And when we had moved in there and done construction, everything was really tall. So the cabinets were to the ceiling. I had to get on the counters just to grab a plate. The toilet, my feet didn't even touch the floor. The sinks, everything was really high. And they ripped all that stuff out, put reasonably sized stuff. So I think they were giants that lived there, just really big, tall people. And that guy was huge that was standing over me. And it made sense. But even, you know, when we moved out, we'd drive by the house because we weren't living there anymore. My mom still owned it, but we weren't living there. And I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to look in its direction. I just tried to write it off. And, you know, this is 20 years later. And if I sleep by myself, I still got to put that blanket over my entire body because it scares out of me. And I start thinking about it again. That was 20 years ago. And, there's out there. And some people might not want to acknowledge it or don't believe in it, but something's out there and going on. And I know that particular area that I lived on up in the mountain there, we had kids in school that had said they had seen Bigfoot and weird creatures and stuff roaming around. And, you know, I had my incident here, and then I had kind of seen some like really oddly big, weird animals out in the woods that shouldn't be there. And there was just some stuff going on. But I had actually talked to my mom about it years later and brought her up to her, and she wasn't surprised at all. She had said that my stepdad had seen things and mentioned to her that when he'd wake up in the morning to make coffee, there'd be stuff walking around the house with him.
So if you're into the creepy, paranormal, unexplained, and strange, stick around. This might be right up your alley. So back whenever I was younger and I was trying to find a little bit of weekend work here and there to pick up some extra change, you know, just to go get rowdy on the weekends, I had a friend of mine. He was doing a little bit of handyman work for this older fella who was disabled and in a wheelchair. And, he invited me to come work with him, you know, give him a helping hand and make a few bucks in the process. So we show up to this guy's house, and as we're unloading our tools out of the truck before we even get started, my buddy pulls me to the side and he says, "Look, man, just want to give you a heads up. This fella talks a lot about things that he hears and sees in this house." He said, "I know how you are. I know how you feel about things like this, but the old man says it's nothing bad. You know, it's mostly kids that he hears, you know, kids laughing or, little like kids running upstairs is mostly what he hears." My brother, I don't play about stuff like that. I don't like anything like that. I'm a scary person. Okay. I don't do ghost, but I needed some extra cash. And so I took one for the team. You know what I mean? I'm just going to suck it up and deal with it. So we go into the house. I meet the man. I shake his hand. He's a pretty good fella. He's an older man, like I say, but he's bound to a wheelchair. Now this house is 2 stories, and I don't know what happened that made him end up in a wheelchair. And, you know, I didn't even ask, I don't think, but he had this thing that he could get into on the stairs, this little electric lift thing, and it would take him up the stairs, which then he can do whatever he needed to upstairs. But there was really no point in him going upstairs because he had everything he needed downstairs. So he really just more or less didn't use upstairs at all. So, and a lot of the work we were doing was downstairs, you know. So the upstairs was, I mean, it was just there. You know, I mean, he didn't have no use for it at all. So the first day we're there, this fella comes in there, you know, and we talk and we're being polite, but he mostly stays out of the way while we do the odd and end work that we're doing. And, you know, me and my buddy, we're talking, we're chatting up. We don't hear anything. I don't see anything, you know, nothing's out of whack. So we go and we leave. And the next day we come back. As we're pulling up to this man's house, it's early that morning. And I'd say it's probably like 7 o'clock in the morning, give or take, you know. So the sun's up, it's daylight. And this old man's up, you know, he's outside in his wheelchair, just kind of hanging out, roaming around, whatever. And he's waiting on us. And as we're pulling into the driveway, I look upstairs. Now he has the old school white lace curtains. If y'all know what I'm talking about, but that's what's upstairs. Now downstairs, he's got some heavier type things with the blinds, but upstairs is just lace curtains for the decorative part of it. I guess this house is really old. I mean, it looks old anyway. And so as we pull in, I'm looking upstairs, just looking around. And when I look up, I'm telling you, it looked like a kid that was standing up there in the window. Like the curtain was held open and there's a face of a child standing in the window. But just as soon as I saw it and I went to grab my buddy's attention to point up and show him, and I was like, hey, look at this. And when I point up and look, it's gone. The curtain's just fine. The curtain's not even moving. It's like nobody ever touched it, right? So right off the bat, he thinks I'm just playing with it. You know, he thinks I'm trying to start some, you know, try to get him riled up. Even though I'm the one that's normally spooked out by things like this, he thinks, you know, I'm messing with him. So we get pulled in, we get all our stuff unloaded, and me and him's going back and forth, you know, about the whole situation. And the old timer hears us, and he said, "What's that now?" And my buddy said, "Yeah, my partner here said he saw some little kid upstairs in the window." And he said, the old timer said, "Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me near a bit." He said, "They've been real active this morning." And my buddy stopped and looked at the old man. He looked at me and he was like, "What do you mean they've been real active?" And the old timer said, "Yeah, I got up this morning and all I heard was them little feet running around upstairs." He said, "They just running around playing." And I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is nuts. There is no way, brother. No way. If I was bound to a wheelchair, the last place I'd be is a haunted house. I don't care if it's just children. I don't care if it's a ghost of a cat and a dog. I don't care if there's a ghost of a roach up in that joint, brother. I don't want near part of it. No. So this freaked us out even more so. You know, like hearing a place is haunted is one thing. You know, oh yeah, man, my house is haunted. Yeah, okay, whatever. But when you see things like that and you witness those things and you hear people that have, you know, have these stories that collaborate what you say or what you've seen, that's a whole nother ballgame, right? But long story short, we worked in this place a couple days. You know, I went back with him a couple times, and towards the end there, while we were there, I never heard anything, but I did see the kid in the window. But towards the end, whenever we were loading up all of our stuff and we were done doing all the little odd and end work we needed to do, I was coming outside with some bags with some tools in them. And as I'm coming out the back door, I heard like bare feet on hardwood. You ever heard that? That's what I heard. But it was little bare feet running on hardwood. Slap, 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 slap. Like it was just running right along. And I kind of caught another little gear as I was bringing my ass out of that house. And like I said, it's crazy to me. I feel bad in a way, you know, because they're children. But I don't think they know. You know, I really don't think that if it is ghosts of children, I don't think they know that they're ghosts. You know, I think that they're just living their own life in their own little time, you know.
I have to tell this story because this literally just happened to me and it scared the living bejeebies out of me. So boom, I'm sitting outside of my car, minding my business, taking care of a few things before I go in the house. And as I'm like about to pack up all of my things, I turn the car off, I turn the lights off. I hear footsteps walking up to the car. So naturally, I think it's my boyfriend trying to scare me, so I'm not thinking too much of it. But then he never came to the car. Like, he never got in the car. He never tried to jiggle the door handle. He was not there. So I'm like, okay, the fear starts to sit in. And so after that, I wait a little moment and I hear it all around my car, but I can't see anything. Cause not only do I have the lights on, but like having the lights on in the car makes it hard to see out of the car from inside the car. And I wasn't about to turn all the lights off after hearing that. So I was like, So I thought to call my boyfriend to come out there and get me because that's how scared I was. But I felt like that was too dramatic. So I called Raven. And I'm like, girl, I'm scared as. And I'm trying to tell her why I'm scared, but she got so much going on. She over there trying to play Lego Batman. And there's a whole bunch of other people over there. So she hangs up on me. I call her again. I say, Raven, this is not funny. Like, there's something outside. Like, I was shaking so bad. You could still see a little bit, like, how. So, I'm gonna think, let me be smart. Let me see if I can see something if I turn my lights on. So I turn my car on. I turn my lights on. Wait, did I grab my car keys? It's somewhere over here. But anyway, so I turn my lights on as I'm talking to Raven, and I see something run in the woods. And I'm thinking, okay, if it's an animal, it's gonna circle back or something. No. After that, my soul dropped to my freaking. And in that moment, I was like, this is what I get for sitting in my car and talking about paranormal experiences. Because here I am experiencing one. And, it's a bunch of woods around, like, there's nothing around here but trees. So, all of those Appalachian stories, I'm scared. I'm scared. So, eventually Raven's like, okay, I'm about to hang up. I got a lot going on over here. I'm like, no, I'm about to go in the house. Please just stay on the phone with me till I didn't even have my phone. I had my computer. So I was like, please stay on FaceTime with me until I get in the house. And so she's like, okay, cool, hurry up and go, because this is exactly how people be getting killed in the movies, in the scary movies. And I'm like, don't say that. She was like, no, you sitting there listening for the sound when you need to be darting it out of there. And I was like, girl, you're right, but I cannot move until I figure out where the sound is at least coming from, to see what I'm working with. And so eventually I just built up the courage. I'm like, I gotta get in this house because whatever's out here is going to get me. So I grab all my things. I use my computer as a flashlight. That's not bright enough. It was still dark. And so I'm walking. I get maybe like 2 or 3 steps away from my car. And I hear something on the nape of my neck, right here, perched up on my shoulder. Like, growl and groan in my ear. Now, I've experienced this before, but it was when I was like really young and I was in high school, I think. Yeah, I was in high school. I was asleep. I was at my dad's house and I was sleeping. And like, for some odd reason, I can't remember how I had my bed set up, but I was not facing the wall. I was facing the closet, and the closet didn't have a door. So it was just there. So I was trying to go to sleep, and out of nowhere, my heart dropped out of my chest. I don't even know what made it drop out of my chest, but something just switched. And I felt something, because I had my eyes closed, but I felt something looking at me. I literally felt something taunting me to open my eyes. But they must not know about me, because I don't play when it comes to the dark. I will keep my eyes closed and I will tuck under the covers. Cause yeah. But anyway, so I heard that same exact and I just never told anybody. I just started praying and it went away. I started praying. It felt like the whole house was shaking. Everybody else was still asleep. All this is happening. Well, actually, that's happened to me twice. But anyway, so in this moment, I don't know why I didn't think to pray. I just knew I had to get out of there, okay? So I ran to the door and like I almost passed out. Like, that's how I know I'm not tripping because I literally I couldn't even catch my breath. I was trying to stop shaking, and I wanted to laugh at the same time because I'm like, this is crazy. Ain't no way I just experienced this. Like, never think you're going to be the one to experience it. So this was just like really crazy. Like, and all I wanted to do was write my Wattpad stories and have a good time and listen to music. And I should have came in the house earlier.
Never actually told this story publicly because every time that I try and I start to hear myself and I start to realize how absolutely ridiculous it sounds. So I live near the Appalachian Mountains, and I grew up even closer to the Appalachian Mountains than I do now. If you know anything about Appalachian grandparents, you know that they tell stories. And some of those stories might sound to others like they are just trying to keep their children safe or like their grandchildren safe from the like animals or things in the woods or anything like that, or just strangers in general. I mean, I suppose you could also explain it away as like Appalachian folklore. If you actually grew up in it, you kind of get a different view of things. One of those stories really stood out to me and my cousin at the time. So my grandma would tell me and my cousin all of these freaking crazy stories about the things that were in the woods beyond the trees behind her property. Well, not behind her property, but I mean like, you know, the wooded area of her property. It's important to note that my grandparents' house was basically my cousin and I's house. Like, my parents worked all the time, so I was always there, and her parents actually lived with my grandma upstairs in the, top of her house. Honestly, you'd think that we would know the woods like the back of our hand, but our grandmother would not allow us to go anywhere near those woods. She said nobody was allowed to go near them because it was just dangerous. And at the time, we had no idea why it was dangerous, and every time we would ask, she would just say, sometimes there are places where people just don't belong. And you know, as a kid, that freaked us out a lot. We were like, okay, we'll just believe you. When we got into our teenage years, it only fueled the curiosity. And so one day we decided to go out in the woods and see why it was so dangerous. So one day I remember we waited until my grandma was asleep. Not like asleep, but she used to take day naps a lot. We would wait until she fell asleep on one of her little day naps. And we snuck out of the house basically to go exploring. We ended up getting to this place pretty deep in the woods, actually. Like, we had been walking for a very long time before we had reached this little like dilapidated handmade sign that said White Bone Ridge. And immediately upon going past this sign, we realized why it was called that, because every single stone there was like this oddly like light color, and it looked like bones. Those rocks looked like freaking bones. So beyond that point was like even denser, even thicker forest than we had already walked through to get to that point we were already at. I swear to you, once we got to the edge of that tree line, that's when things started to shift. My intuition was telling me to leave. My pride was telling me to press on. You can just guess which side won. Whatever, we go in and we just start exploring more. We keep going, marking our way so that we are not to get lost. And then we end up coming across a cave, which I know what you're thinking. Why would you go inside of a cave that you just randomly find? I know. And I wouldn't do it to this day. But we went inside the cave, okay? And this cave was cold, bro. And I don't mean like just a little chill. I mean, bro, that was ice cold. The entrance itself wasn't especially like large or anything like that, but it was like enough of a size to get through, and it looked like things had gotten through. Which, looking back now, like that could have definitely been an animal, and we definitely could have been slaughtered. But honestly, what we found inside was way worse than an animal. I honestly wish it was a bear. We go into this cave, and the deeper we go into the cave, the more we start to see like the walls of it starting to smooth out more and more and more. And it doesn't really look like it's very natural. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen like what it looks like when fingers or hands have like smoothed out a surface over time. It kind of looked like that, like something had been walking in or like squeezing itself in, and it like, you know, rubbed against the material to make it smooth like that. It's a very distinct look. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't really know. But honestly, the first moment that I started to feel genuine fear, rather than like the little flickers of fear that I was, or like more like adrenaline that I was feeling of like, oh my God, we're in this cave. Oh my gosh, there's something wrong. No, bro, the first fear strike that I actually really felt was when I started to notice like these like cave markings, and some of them had like dust still in them, as if something had recently made those markings. But stupidly, we continued to go because my cousin convinced me that it was probably just animal, which I don't know why that would convince me, like I said, because what if it was a bear or like a mountain lion or something? Like, what the I'm not going to wimp out right now. Like, we're already here. We might as well see what the danger really is, right? So we keep going, and as we're going, it's like this like really narrow, like I would say like a hallway type thing, but it's really narrow. And it ends up opening into this big cavern, which Honestly, it was giving The Descent. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen that movie? So we get into this cavern and we're shining our flashlights around, and this thing is so big that honestly, like, our flashlights are not reaching every corner. As soon as we get in there, we start to hear footsteps off in the darkness in front of us. So we froze, and when we did that, the footsteps also froze. Stayed silent for a good 2 minutes, I swear to God, and we heard no other noise, so we were probably like, okay, we're just freaking ourselves out. It's our footsteps, whatever. So we continue to go. We keep walking, but this time we're more weary. We're not haphazardly walking around anymore. We are in a huddle, with our flashlights in front, okay, we're gonna keep going now. But that decision to go forward would change our perception of these forests forever and make us believe in all the folklore, seriously. All those crazy stories that Grammy used to tell, yeah, they're gonna seem way less crazy after this. Then we started to hear shuffling, and it was loud. It was right off in the dark sections that our flashlights were not reaching. So it was like a case of fight or flight, and we chose to freeze. We're frozen in the middle of this big, giant, open cavern, and we're flashing our flashlights around, and we start to notice that, the materials on the walls are moving. What we thought were just, stones or, some kind of something, because they were standing so still before, we didn't realize that it was an actual being. As we're shining our flashlights around the sides of the cavern, we start to pay more attention than we had before. And we start to see faces within what we thought were just pale white rocks, because like I was telling you, this space that we found, those rocks and the stones and stuff were white as bones. Things were stark white. And by this point, they were all staring at us. And by all, I mean, there was a lot. Way more than we were expecting. Way more than we even thought. We weren't expecting to see that. I mean, way more than I was initially expecting after I had seen, the faces. Bodies were super thin, and their arms were way too long for their bodies. Honestly, it was giving the creature from Backrooms, but with a big, pale, white face with these ginormous saucer eyes. I swear to God, these eyes were so big, they looked like black moons on these things' faces. We're still standing there with our flashlights shining on these things, and all of a sudden, one of them moves forward, slightly, more into the light. That's when our fight or flight really kicked in. We got out of freeze mode, and we got the out of there. Honestly, I don't even remember the run back, to be honest with you. I just remember my lungs were burning. My body was on fire. My ribs felt like they were cracking out of my chest by the time we reached the edge of the woods. I don't think anything was following us out of the cave, but I think adrenaline just really made me feel like there was, but I don't think that anything followed us. But yeah, if you live in Appalachia and your grandparents have ever told you the story of the moon-eyed people of the mountains, believe them, and stay out of random caves.
Here's my squirrel. You want to hear how my old house was extremely haunted? And this is the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me. So when we moved into my old house, I was 8 months pregnant, okay? And I had this back bedroom that I decorated into a nursery for my daughter. And I do not know how to explain this to anybody, but I pick up on vibes, man. And for some reason, I got it in my head that there was something in my daughter's back bedroom. It was a little haunted, but that's okay, because hey, I live in West Virginia. Most places here are a little haunted. Most places in general are a little haunted with energy, In the ghosts, we'd be like this. Anywho, so fast forward, a bunch of weird stuff would happen in that house all the time. I don't have time to tell you all of that stuff. But when I had my second daughter, she was a newborn, brand new newborn. And I would have dreams of this woman, this elderly woman, coming out of the nursery wearing my kids' pajamas that were too tight. And I mean, it was a creepy, sight. I was afraid of it. And for some reason, if you would leave the, light on in the bedroom, you had to leave the light on in there in the nursery, or weird shit happen all night. I figured this out over a few years, right? You had to shut the door and you had to leave the light on, or crazy stuff would happen. You'd have crazy dreams. Other people in the house would experience stuff. People who house sat for us would experience stuff without me telling them, because I just wanted to see, right? And they would literally call us and be like, what is going on in your house? You have raccoons in your ceiling? What is going on? I'd be like, no, just turn that nursery light on and shut the door. It would stop. So, anyways, I would have dreams about this woman, and I came to the conclusion in my own weird brain, this ghost was a handicapped woman, mentally handicapped, not all there, the mind of a child, right? And I just knew that that's why she liked to stay in that back bedroom with my kids' stuff. So I had my newborn, and I was having this dream that she like ran out of the room screaming at me to wake up. And I did. I woke up and I check on my newborn immediately, and she was not breathing. I'm sorry. I'm getting anxiety talking about it because that was scary. She's okay. She's fine. She's like, I woke her, she started like gasping for air. But that ghost, I literally stand by it to this day. That ghost saved my baby. And here's the weird part, because I'm a skeptic at heart, even though I like this weird stuff and I do believe in it, I want to know. So I messaged the man who sold us the house, because it was a man who sold us this house. We didn't interact with him much. He was from out of state. He just sold us the house. And I was like, hey, by any chance, was there a woman who lived here, kind of like an older woman who like maybe was like mentally not all there? And he was like, yes, actually, that's why I sold you guys the house. It was my sister, his sister. And I said, was her room like the back right room? And he said it was. And he was like, why do you ask? And I don't know if I ever messaged him back. I still have the emails somewhere. But yeah, that was a weird thing that happened.
I don't know why paranormal things follow me around the way that they do, but they do. I think it's because I'm from the Appalachian Mountains, and it's just ingrained into your body a little bit. You experience things in a more heightened sense. Well, after I moved to Florida, I made a new friend. He's a veteran, and he could experience things the same way that I can, but he experienced a lot of really bad things in war, and I couldn't even deal with the things that he would see. So we were going to go to the Keys, and we were going to go fishing. I had points to stay at this motel in Homestead, Florida, for free. Y'all know if it's free, it's for me. I'm staying there if it's free. We get to this motel in Homestead, not a great part of town. Check in, everything's fine, take showers, blah, blah, blah. The bathroom door in this motel is the most creakety thing I've ever heard, like, when it opens. This bathroom door opened once by itself. We looked over, like, whatever, maybe it's a draft. Happened again. And then we started smelling rotten meat. Y'all know when you smell rotten meat, it means something that's not good. And if you don't believe me, scroll. I don't care. This happened to us. When we started smelling that rotten meat, this horrendous, like, primal fear just come over both of us. We looked at each other. We got out of that room. Didn't take anything with us. We went outside across the parking lot and sat at this little, like, iron table you would have, like, at your grandma's house that's been painted 50 times white. We sat out there. We left the front door to the motel room open. And we did not go back in that motel room until the sun come up. I don't remember the name of the motel. It's in Homestead, not a great part of town. Very, very old, rundown, short ceilings type place. But I don't know if that thing was there in the motel or if it followed one of us there. It could have been any of the above.
Could you imagine living in a wooded area of Appalachia and waking up to discover that your neighbor's house is burning to the ground? And then you go outside to get a closer look, and you're standing there looking at your neighbors watch their home burn to the ground. But then from the corner of your eye, you see something emerge from the woods, and it slowly creeps up to your side. It's a young woman, but with long gray hair, wearing a white nightgown. You glance at her, glance back at the fire for like a split second, and then turn back, and she is now gone. She simply just vanished. Nowhere to be seen.
If you made it this far, thank you for exploring the paranormal side of Appalachia with me. These mountains hold centuries of secrets, and we're only scratching the surface. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another deep dive. And as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.